Hello, my name is Pastor Kathy Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm State Park and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas, Ohio. Greetings. We're reading through the Bible with commentary. We're in the book of Ecclesiastes. And in our previous session, I did an introduction in the first two chapters. And I then had a gap in my recording because I had things going on in my life. And so I want to start all over again, but we're not. We're going to review a tiny bit and pick up in chapter 2, because I know I read chapter 2, but I want to read chapter 2 again. And part of the reason I want to read it again is that I think a lot of the book of Ecclesiastes really is summed up by chapters 2 and 3, which we're doing today. This whole idea. So in the introductory session, I talked about the idea that most of the book of Ecclesiastes doesn't have this big structure. A lot of the books of the Bible have a structure, and the scholars love to here's the outline, and here's the structure, and here's how it was formed. This one has really this little tiny introductory thing at the beginning and a little tiny bit at the end. A lot of it is Qoheleth, the teacher, the preacher, this person who is saying what they have learned. The teacher, son of David. So it's written as though it's Solomon. It probably was not actually Solomon who wrote this down. It would have been later than Solomon, possibly during the Babylonian exile, because a lot of scholarship happened in Babylonia. But even more likely, it was after that point that it got written down. But this message that the teacher, the preacher, this son of David talks a lot about this word Hevel, which I wanted to go back and talk about again. Hevel, Hevel, this Hebrew word that is translated in this translation as vanity. But vanity has more than one meaning in the English language. You could say, oh, you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. Vanity in that sense is oh, I'm all about myself. But vanity also, I guess there's more than even two meanings. It's vanity is also like a piece of furniture. But vanity in the usage that it's here in this Bible passage is the idea of something that's pointless, something worthless. And really the word Hevel is more than that. It's, of course, lots of these Hebrew words have these full, rich meanings that can't get translated into just one word. Hevel means breath, vapor, vanity, but pointlessness, like this. And I love this expression that they use in chapter 1. I perceive that this also is but a chasing after wind. So vanity, wind, vapor, pointlessness, a folly, something that, the idea Hevel is this thing that we go chasing after, and then we can't grasp hold of it. We can't get a hold of whatever it is that we're chasing after. And so I want to reread chapter 2, and it talks a lot about I perceive that too was vanity, and kind of the idea that we should not be getting our value from any of these things. So whether it's from pleasure, if you're just chasing after pleasure all the time and trying to get value there, it's not going to work for you. You're going to be disappointed in the end. Or work, or wisdom, all of those are vanity. It's not that work is bad or wisdom is bad, or even having pleasure in your food is bad. In fact, later he says you need to take pleasure in your work and take pleasure in your food. But chasing after pleasure for pleasure's sake, getting your value from your wisdom or from your work, that is Hevel. That is chasing after the wind, worthless, hopeless, not going to do you any good. So reviewing back to chapter 2, and then we're going to hit chapter 3. Chapter 2, I said to myself, come now, I will make a test of pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But again, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it's mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my mind how to cheer my body with wine, my mind still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, until I might see what was good for mortals to do under heaven during the few days of their life. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks. I planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and of the provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and delights of the flesh, and many concubines. So went after pleasure, went after having all the things, all the possessions, all the stuff. And you can go after money and riches and get all the things and still find that your life is hopeless, pointless, that is not the meaning that you needed. It doesn't give you that sense of satisfaction that is good. Verse 9, so I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered that all my hands had done, and the toil I had spent doing it, and again all was vanity and a chasing after the wind. There was nothing to be gained under the sun. So the writer went after pleasure, went after possessions, went after becoming very wise and knowing everything, and found that it still was a chasing after the wind. It wasn't a helpful, or it was not a satisfactory thing. Verse 12, so I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly, for what can the one who comes after the king? Only what has already been done. Then I saw that wisdom exceeds folly, as light excels darkness. The wise have eyes in their head, but fools walk in darkness. Yet I perceived that the same fate befalls all of them. So it's better to be wise than foolish, and being wise is good, but in the end, both the wise and the foolish both pass away. Verse 15, then I said to myself, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said to myself that this is vanity. For there is no enduring remembrance of the wise or of fools, seeing that in the days to come all will have been long forgotten. How can the wise die just like fools? So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me. For all is vanity and a chasing after wind. It's all pointless. I'm just trying to grab after things that you can't hold on to. And nothing I do it's all been done before. And everything I experience, it doesn't help me any. And I'm going to die just like the fools die. What's the point of being wise? I'm going to have the same ending as the foolish people. Why? Verse 18, I hated all my toil in which I had toiled under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to those who come after me. And who knows whether they will be wise or foolish? Yet they will be master for all which I have toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So the writer hated the fact that did all this work and everything is going to get left. The writer's going to die. And when the writer dies, everything is going to get left to somebody after him. And I'm assuming a him, could be a her. But after the writer's death, everything that the writer has worked for will go to their heirs. And will the heirs even appreciate how much work went into all of the things that they created and worked and did? Verse 20, so I turned and gave up my heart to despair concerning all the toil of my labors under the sun. Because sometimes one who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave it to be enjoyed by another who did not toil for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. So everybody's going to die, and all of this work that we did gets left for somebody who didn't work for it. Verse 22, what do mortals get from all the toil and strain with which they toil under the sun? For all their days are full of pain, and their work is a vexation. Even at night their minds do not rest. This also is vanity. So what do we get for all this work? It doesn't matter. It's just hard days and our brains are still going even at night. It's still Hevel. Right? Vanity here is Hevel, this breath, this vapor, this temporary thing, this thing that we tried and we cannot grasp hold of. Verse 24, there is nothing better for mortals than to eat and drink and find enjoyment in their toil. So he just said, he did all this seeking after pleasure, he did all this work, and it was Hevel. But now the writer is saying there's nothing better than to eat, to drink, to enjoy your work. Do your work and enjoy the work. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat and who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and heaping, only to give to one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a chasing after the wind. So if you, the one who pleases God, God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy. And to sinners, God gives the job of gathering and heaping. And then whatever they gather and heap is going to go to somebody else who pleases God. And all of it is Hevel. Hevel, it's all Hevel. What's the point? It's all useless. But the idea that even in the midst of this useless, pointless vanity, this Hevel, we are still called to eat, drink, work, and to enjoy our work. And they say if you can find a job you love, you never work a day in your life. And the reality is every job, even the jobs that you love, have parts about them that are hard. I absolutely love all of my jobs, and I have a bunch of different jobs. I love them. But there is truth that even my jobs that I love so much have things about them that I don't love. But I find enjoyment in them. And in finding enjoyment, it is a gift from God to work and to feel like, well, I did my work. And even if my work is Hevel, you plant the garden and then weeds grow, you mow the grass and the grass grows back. Hevel, Hevel. We just have to keep doing our work and finding enjoyment and mowing the grass, even knowing that it's going to grow back. It's especially true for women's work, although it's also true for much of men's work. But you wash the dishes and you have to wash them again. You change the baby and then you have to change the baby again. You mow the grass and then you have to mow the grass again. You have whatever it is that we do, most of the work we do has to be done again. And so the work is Hevel. We do the work and then do we even do the work? It's Hevel, it's vanity, it's pointless, but it's not. And we find enjoyment in our work, not because our work is our defining thing. God is the one who gives us the value and gives us meaning. But we do the work that God gives us to do, whether it's mowing grass or holding somebody's hand or whatever it is that God gives to us to do. If we can find enjoyment in our food, in our drink, and in our work, that is a gift from God and exactly where we should be. So chapter 3, which is actually where we're supposed to be starting today's session, but I really wanted to do chapter 2 again because it's just this idea that we're chasing after things that are not going to give satisfaction, and yet in the middle of doing those things there is satisfaction to be had. And the satisfaction that we have is that God has given us food and drink and jobs to do. And it's not that the job itself is so awesome, but the fact that we have the job. It's not that mowing the grass is that much fun, but it's very satisfying to mow the grass and then have it be tidy again. I hear lawnmowers running, so I guess that's why I've got lawn mowing on my mind. But it's certainly an example of a thing that it's Hevel. So what? You mowed the grass, and then you have to do it again. And yet when we take satisfaction in taking care of what God has given us, then we find the meaning that we are to find. Chapter 3, the most famous probably part of Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. And of course there's a song that practically quotes this verbatim. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to throw away, a time to tear, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Written in poetical form, in poetry form, and of course the wonderful old song, I think that's Simon and Garfunkel that sang this practically verbatim version of the song. And it is a song, it's a poem, but it also is just so much truth. There are times when there's nothing to say, and the best thing we can do is to sit with someone and not say anything. There's other times when we need to speak up. We need to say the thing that we don't want to say maybe, but we have to open our mouth and say the thing because there's a time to speak. There's a time for being born and dying, planting and harvesting, killing, healing, breaking down, building up, weeping, laughing, mourning, dancing. And of course, the idea that we don't always dance, sometimes we mourn. We don't always laugh, sometimes we cry. And to be aware and sensitive to people who are mourning and crying, and not come in and be insensitive to the fact that they're struggling with whatever they're struggling with. But then also a recognition that we can't always do all of the things. Sometimes it's time for this, and sometimes it's time for that. A time to tear, a time to sow. Just keep silence, a time to speak. Love, hate, war, peace, all of those things, that there's a right time. I think that one little 8-verse passage is just the most famous part of Ecclesiastes, and very, very famous. Verse 9, chapter 3, verse 9, what gain have the workers from their toil? I have seen the business that God has given to everyone to be busy with. He has made everything suitable for its time. Moreover, he has put a sense of past and future into their minds. Yet they cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Moreover, it is God's gift that all should eat and drink and take pleasure in their toil. I know that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done this so that all should stand in awe before him. That which is already has been, that which is to be already is, and God seeks out what has gone by, or what is pursued. So this, again, reiterating the same idea that what gain do we have? We have to do the work. It's not that we gain any work, but there's nothing better than to be happy with what we've been given, with our food, with our drink, with our work, to enjoy our work, to enjoy our people, to enjoy what God has given us. Verse 16, moreover, I saw under the sun that in the place of justice, wickedness was there, and in the place of righteousness, wickedness was there as well. I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, for he has appointed a time for every matter and for every work. I said in my heart with regard to human beings that God is testing them to show that they are but animals. For the fate of humans and the fate of animals is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath, and humans have no advantage over animals, for all is vanity. Hevel. All go to one place, all are from the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knows whether the human spirit goes upward and the spirit of animals goes downward to the earth? So I saw that there was nothing better than that all should enjoy their work, for that is their lot. Who can bring them to see what will be after them? So again, what is better is just to enjoy the work we have, whatever the work might be, because all we have is today. I need a drink. For who can bring them to see what will be after them? We have to deal with the work we have today, with the jobs God gives us today, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what's going to happen. We do the work we do, and then we pass on. And when we pass on, then somebody else takes over, and they do or they do not do whatever it is that we were doing. All we can do is take pleasure in the work we have in front of us, which maybe I did not need to reread chapter 2 because it's very much there in chapter 3 as well. But I don't know, I really wanted to redo the introduction, really. And in our next session, we'll pick up on chapter 4. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace, like, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you again next time, and thank you so much for being here.